morning, if anybody's there. Otherwise, I'm talking to myself. Also good. So again, let's refresh memory where we are. The Maamar began that all Maamar Kol Yisrael, all Yidden will merit Olam Haba, which means they'll merit to experience and to be there in the time of Tchias HaMeisim. And Rabbi the Maamar asks a question, two questions. One question is that Gan Eden is so much lower than Tchias HaMeisim, and yet not everybody merits Gan Eden, but everybody merits to go into Olam Haba. How could that be? The second question is, Gan Eden is so much lower than Olam Haba. We say lower, we mean in terms of what's being to be revealed, godliness, and yet Gan Eden, the only way that the neshama could experience Gan Eden if it divests itself from the body, it leaves the body behind in this world, and then the neshama can go into Gan Eden. And not only does it have to leave the body behind, it even has to leave the image of the physical world, the perspective of the physical world. It has to sort of erase that, delete that, in order to be able to absorb and adjust to Gan Eden. And not only that, but in Gan Eden itself, going from level to level, he has to sort of shed the previous level to enter to the next level, which means it's all about getting further and further away from the physical. And that's the prerequisite to be able to go forward. With Olam Haba, it's just the opposite. And the only way that the soul could experience that experience is dafka by coming down the neshama in the guf. So how is that understood? That the highest level of godly light can be revealed dafka the neshama in the guf. So in order to explain that, he's going to explain the difference between the neshama and the guf. And he starts off by saying that just like a human being is made up of a neshama and a guf, Torah is also made up of a neshama and a guf. The Torah also has in it these two components, guf and neshama. Where are the two components? The study of Torah is the neshama. The physical actions of observing the laws of Torah, the mitzvahs, that's the guf. And therefore, the Torah is compared to blood, and mitzvahs are compared to the organs. And therefore, mitzvahs, because they're connected to the guf, are limited by time and space, with all the laws and all the restrictions, when you can do it, how you can do it, what time you can do it, which place you can do it. Every mitzvah has its restrictions. Torah is not limited by time and space. Like the example he gives, a person could study Torah, the laws of the carbon, and the Hashem says it's as if you brought the carbon. Even though you're not in the Beis HaMikdash, you're not a Kohen, you're not qualified, you're not pure enough to do the avodah, everything is sort of, everything is not consistent with the laws of bringing a carbon. And yet when you learn Torah, it's as if you did it because Torah doesn't have the limitations. Then he brings what it says in Tanya, that when you when you learn Torah, it has mainly effect on your neshama. When you observe mitzvahs, that mainly has an effect on your guf. And we learned that part inside Tanya chapter Lamed Hey 35. Now we're on page 3 in the booklet, but we're still in Ois Gimel, the second paragraph that begins with Vihine. It's Yudua, it's known. We just finished explaining that Torah is higher than mitzvahs. Torah is unlimited, mitzvahs are limited. Torah is spiritual, mitzvahs are physical. So it's known that this fact that the Torah is higher than mitzvahs, that's the way Torah mitzvahs are here in this world, the way Torah mitzvahs are revealed to us. But the root and the source of the Torah mitzvahs, which means Torah comes from a spiritual place in the spiritual realm. Mitzvahs come from a spiritual place in the spiritual realm. And over there is the opposite. Ha-mitzvahs hem nailam yeseh, the source, the spiritual roots and spiritual source of mitzvahs is actually higher than Torah. In what way? Torah is wisdom, is intellect, it's logic. So Torah comes from Hashem's chachma. We use this many times. Yeah. Torah comes from Hashem's chachma. And mitzvahs is not about chachma, it's Hashem's will. Because mitzvahs, the main point of mitzvah is not understanding, it's doing the actual mitzvah, practically, whether it's in speech or it's in action. So therefore, mitzvahs come from Hashem's will. And will is higher than chachma. We know that the human being, the neshama, is structured in a way that's parallel to the spiritual realm. So in the human realm and in the spiritual realm, we have the 10 keiches, starting from chachma, the 10 faculties, from chachma down to malchus. But there's something higher than chachma in a person, and that's the willpower. And the proof is that the willpower is something which controls all the faculties. It's the willpower that controls the chachma, what to do, when to do, how to do, the way I want it. That's how it works. There's two ways to understand it. One way is simple. The power of intellect contains in it the potential to understand every subject, any subject under the sun. So when I'm studying this Maamar and I want to understand this subject, which means my brain is now producing logic to understand this. But the brain has the potential to produce logic in every subject, in medicine, in science, in any subject in the world. So what is controlling and what is in charge that causes the brain to produce a logic in this subject, not in something else? Who's in charge? Hashem, that's the general answer to all questions.
You are.
He's the beginning, me. The beginning and the end of everything. But how does Hashem do it in the human psyche? The answer is the will. I want to understand this. So the willpower is commanding the brain to produce logic and to understand this. I'm thinking till I get it. But it's the will that's commanding my hand to move, and the will that makes my feet. In other words, if I want to go in a certain direction, I want to run, I want to walk, I want to jump, I want to draw, whatever I want to do, that's what the organs in the body do. So just like the organs in the body are controlled by the will, that's how the brain is also controlled by the will. And the will gives orders to the brain to be focusing on this and this subject. So it means that the brain, which is the highest faculty of all, has someone higher than it that controls it. And this explains a very interesting statement in Gemara. There's a statement in Gemara, La'olam yilmed adam b'makom shalibei chafetz. A person should always be studying Torah in a place where their heart desires. What does that mean? It has two meanings, as usual. Actually, there's 70 meanings, but at least two. One, it means physical. If a person wants to study in a certain yeshiva, that's where they want to study. They also have the opportunity to study in another place, but they really don't want to study there. So basically, this statement is a person should choose to study in a place where their heart is drawn to it. Another interpretation is it's not physical smoking, but it means the subject matter. You can study halacha, you can study Chassidus, you can study Gemara. In Gemara, you can study the laws of Shabbos, you can learn laws of Pesach, you can study marriage, divorce, sacrifices of Beis Hamikdash. So sometimes a person has a certain desire to study a certain subject. I like this subject. So the statement is saying you should study and choose the subject that you like. And what's the reason for it? Because when you choose to study something that you want to study, your brain will be functioning much better. You'll be able to understand it better because your will is there. So once again, we see that the will controls the brain. And the will, because I want to study in this geographic location, or because I want to study in this subject, my brain will be functioning on a much, much better level. So the willpower is the highest thing in the body. By the way, there's another thing about the will, which is a huge discussion in Chassidus, a huge topic in Chassidus, and that is the highest faculties, even Chachma, has an organ in the body where it's located, it's limited. In other words, the intellect is in the brain, not in the nose, most of the time. Not in the toes, not in the elbows. So where's the intellect? In the brain, which means the brain is a vessel that's designed to accommodate the intellect. And the same with others. The eye is a vessel for the power of vision. And the mouth is a vessel for the power of speech. And the heart is a vessel for the power of emotion. In fact, Chassidus explains that the physical structure, the physical chemistry and structure of these organs, the form and the shape and the structure is consistent with the spiritual power. We have to have a better understanding of the spiritual power, what does it mean with the structure, but it means that, let's say, the eye is the way it looks. It's round, and it has the white, and it has the darker part of the eye, and it's a glossy surface and all that. That makes it conducive that the power of vision could function through the eye. And the ear doesn't have that. But the ear is designed in such a way that the example would be like a glove. I put on a glove. The right glove fits my right hand. The left glove fits my left hand. But if I put the right glove on the left hand, it's not going to fit properly, which means the glove is a piece of cloth. Can't compare it to a hand. But the design of the glove is designed in a way that it's a perfect fit for the right hand. The design of the ear is a perfect fit. So there's a lashon in the Rebbe Rashab's writing, the Maamar, we use this term that the accuracy of how the design of the physical organ fits the spiritual faculty, which means, like you would say in English, it's not even one iota different than the actual structure and form and shape of that power. I know it's hard to understand because these faculties don't have a physical form. But we said many times that any form and shape that we recognize as something physical exists also in the spiritual faculties, the spirituality. If this would come up, would you know how to explain it? If someone would say to you, what in the world are you talking about? No. Okay, I'll try again. I know we did this a few times. I'll remind you, if someone would tell you, did you have a meeting about this subject? Yes, we had a meeting. And what happened? They say nothing. We're just walking around in circles. We were going in circles. What do you think happened by the meeting? They all stood up, they held hands, and they walked around the table. So why do they say we're going in circles?
They never really reached a solution.
Right, so circle is a physical diagram. But the principle of the circle is that you start at a certain point and you get back to the same point. You're not moving forward. You get back to where you were before. So if we're having a meeting and we got nowhere, we will use the term, we'll walk going around in circles. That means that the circle could be a diagram in the physical sense, but it could also be a way of describing something intellectual, emotional, or many other things. Like we said yesterday, if somebody would say the knife is very sharp, or someone would say that the statement was a very sharp statement. There's a reason why we're using the term sharpness. It's the same principle if you think of it, but this is sharpness sort of emotionally, and this is sharpness, tough and soft. This is tough and this is soft. Person has a very tough character. He has a soft character. This person's flexible and not flexible. There's flexibility physically and there's flexibility in personality. I don't like this color. It's too loud. You ever hear a color screaming? What does it mean to tell it's too loud? So there's loudness and there's sort of quietness in colors.
You're obviously around a lot of women, Rabbi.
That's why I know about loudness. And the three dimensions of length, depth, and width exist in emotion. You can say, person, I have a feeling for something, but it's not very deep. You're using the same term, depth. It's not borrowing the term, and it's just the opposite. The true principle of depth is not limited to a closet. The true definition of depth could be used intellectually, emotionally, and in many areas. Physically, it's the depth in a closet, the depth of a room. Physically, length and width are diagrams, are dimensions in a physical space. So therefore, the shape of the eye, the form of the eye, the composition of the eye and the ear, they all fit the spiritual faculty. Ratzon, the willpower, has no organ in the body that is the organ that contains the willpower. Where's the willpower? Everywhere. It's not limited to a certain organ. It registers in the brain. If I want something, that's where it registers. But where does it exist? Which is the organ in the body that contains it and is the conduit through this? There's no organ in the body. And that's why we see that no matter which part of the body, whether it's the brain or the hand or the feet or the toes or the heel, any part of the body that I want to move, the instant I want to move it, it happens. There's no process. If it would be in the brain, it says in Chassidus, listen to this, if it would be in the brain, it would have to take time that it would reach from the brain to a specific organ in the body. For example, a person wants to learn this, have the skill of art. You go to an art teacher, it tells you go like this, move your hand like this. Does that happen immediately, or it takes time that you learn how to move your hands in a way that'll draw a beautiful picture? How come it takes time? I'm talking to my brain, my hands, and move this way. Sloppy, again and again, and you learn to refine your movements till finally you get it right. Why does it take time? So the answer is because I understand in my brain how it's supposed to be. The brain is commanding my hand. It's not time because it takes time to travel from here to here. It doesn't take time to travel. That time is not that much time. It's a process of like tzimtzum, sort of. It has to go from the brain into an organ, which is really not an organ for intellect. So therefore, it takes time for it to process itself and to adjust itself and invest itself in the hand. If a person wants to teach themselves how to dance, take certain steps in dancing, it's a process. Even though you're telling your brain, move your feet this way, that way, quick, slow, it doesn't happen. It takes a while. What takes time? Because it's a process. It's in the brain understands it, and the brain is the vessel for intellect, but not the feet. So it takes time till it gets processed that from the brain, it could sort of go through this process of tzimtzum and invest itself in the foot, in the hand, in any other organ of the body. So if the ratzon, the willpower, would also be in the brain, then it would have to take time until it affects certain parts of the body. But we see that it's in an instant. The instant the person wants something, it happens in that instant, and there's no difference in which part of the body it is. The reason for that is because ratzon is not limited to any part of the body. It's something which is unlimited, relatively speaking, and therefore it affects every part of the body instantly. So ratzon is considered the highest faculty, higher than all the 10. What would be corresponding to that in the spheres? If it's not chachma, then what is it? Kesed, right? When we say Hashem wanted, that means kesed. That's something that came from or comes from Hashem's crown. That's the level of kesed. It's above chachma. Just like physically, the crown sits on top of the head, on top of the brain.
So where does will come from?
Will?
Yeah.
So there's a discussion about that, but the first and sort of original, I would say the simplest way of looking at it, that the will comes from pleasure. Why do I want this? Or why do you want something else? It's because this gives me pleasure and that gives you pleasure. So some people like the outdoors and some people like the indoors. Some people like cold and some people like hot. Some people like noise, some people like quiet. What does it have to do with it? What you like, that determines what you want. What? Yeshus? No. This has to do with my personality. If I'm a chesed person, then I'm going to like, let's say, they have what they call, when a person's looking for a job, for work, so what do they call it? There's a test that they take, aptitude test, to see like what you would be good at, what would you like. So somebody chooses, I want to be a doctor. There's something in me that draws me towards medicine. And something in me that draws me towards towards being a electrician, towards being an architect, is something in me, because and that's the pleasure. I come from a certain spiritual source. I have a certain spiritual mission, and that is where I get my pleasure from, and that is what causes me to have a will to go into this field. The will we experience consciously. Why I want it, sometimes we can't figure that out exactly.
So where does pleasure come from?
Yeah, I have to give you such a hard time so early in the morning. It's only 5 to 9. It's not even 9 o'clock yet.
I need to know why I like stuff.
So pleasure is really considered that this is the essence. That's who I am. In other words, like I said before, we all have a spiritual source where we come from. And therefore, that will determine what's my pleasure. If a person is a chesed person, a gevura person, teferes person, Yisod, Netzach, Hod, Malchus, all these 7 spheres and the details to them, they define what's my personality. And that's what gives me pleasure. That's why I want. And that starts affecting my 10 faculties. So really, the highest level in the neshama is pleasure, then goes will, and then go the 10 faculties. Don't ask me where pleasure comes from.
So what you say, pleasure, will, and then?
The 10 faculties. So as far as Torah mitzvahs is concerned, Torah is Hashem's wisdom, that's Chochmah. Mitzvahs come from Hashem's will. So just like in the human body, Chochmah is part of the 10 faculties that has a certain form, shape, and has a certain organ that contains it. Ratzon is not contained anywhere. It's in a sense not limited to any organ in the body. Hashem's will is also Or Ein Sof. That's the unlimited light of Hashem, the infinite light. And that's where mitzvahs come from. So this is the classical answer to all the questions. So, sir, which is higher, Torah, mitzvahs? It depends. If you look at the Torah mitzvahs in itself, Torah is higher than mitzvahs. You look at the source, mitzvahs are higher than Torah. This is an interesting footnote in 17. Yeah.
So mitzvahs are higher because they're Hashem's will, which is above Chochmah.
Right. Hashem's will is infinite, is the Or Ein Sof, and Chochmah is, even though it's the highest of the 10, but it's still part of the finite realm. In footnote 17, it says that, just like we said before, that in Torah itself, there's a soul and a body, which are the hidden secrets of Torah, the soul, the revealed part of Torah is the body. In mitzvah, there's also a soul in the body. The act of the mitzvah is the body. The kavanah of the mitzvah is the soul. So it says if a person does a mitzvah and is not thinking, is not concentrating, it's like a body without a soul.
The inner part of Torah is body.
Generally speaking, the soul, the Torah is the soul, and mitzvahs are the body.
Right.
But we know that in Torah mitzvahs, everything includes everything. So in Torah itself, there's also 2 dimensions, and the mitzvahs, there are 2 dimensions. What's the soul and body in the Torah itself? So like I said, the hidden secrets of Torah is the soul, and the revealed part of Torah is the body. When it comes to mitzvahs, the physical act is the body, and the kavanah is the soul. But we'll stick to the way things are more general. So generally speaking, the mitzvahs are lower and Torah is higher. The source, Torah is lower and mitzvahs are higher. So now that it was established that Torah and mitzvahs are this way, we can now go to the human being who has a neshama and a guf, and the same principle applies. So we're now at the bottom of the page, the paragraph that begins with the words umizeh muvan. From this, it's understood that the same thing applies to the neshama and the guf of a person, because the neshama and the guf in a person is like the neshama and the guf of Torah. Remember, he brought a pasuk in the beginning, Zeis Teres HaAdam, that the Torah is compared to an Adam. And just like in an Adam there's a neshama and a guf, the Torah reflects that in the Torah there's a neshama and a guf, or even the opposite. Because the Torah has a neshama and a guf, that's why Adam has a neshama and a guf. But one thing we know is we're drawing a parallel between the 2. So the same applies to human beings, that who is higher, the neshama or the guf? So the answer is, Hagam shechayis aguf u'manashama, even though it's the neshama that gives life to the body. So therefore, who's higher? The neshama is higher and the guf is lower. The guf itself, in its own merit, can't live. There's no life to it. The life that it has, which is the main quality, because a guf, God forbid, without life, is like a stone. There's nothing to it. There's no quality to it. So the main quality is because it's alive, and the life that it has comes from the neshama. So the neshama is the mashpia, and the guf is the receiver. Certainly the neshama is higher, and the guf is lower. But the source, sheirish haguf, the root and the source of the guf, let's turn the page, u'lamayla m'sheirish neshama. That's actually higher than the source of the neshama. This reminds me of a part of a famous chassid, Rabbi Hillel Paritcher. His name came up a few times in this class. One of the biggest chassidim in the history of chassidus. A lot of sichas of the Frierdiker Rebbe about this chassid. So he was somebody who, before he became a chassid of the Mittler Rebbe, was a chassid of another Rebbe. And he was a brilliant Torah scholar, prodigy. At the age of 13, they say, by bar mitzvah, he was Boki, which means he had vast knowledge of every printed sefer of Torah that was printed in his times. Nigla, and I think also in Kabbalah. So we're talking about someone brilliant. So he once spoke about the difference between before and after. And he said like this: before I began to study Chassidus Chabad, there was nothing more repulsive to me than my body. The physical body and everything that goes along with it is the biggest interference and disturbance to the neshama to live the way the neshama wants to live. So like the body was like this, that's something which was repulsive to me. After I began studying Chassidus, there's nothing more precious to me than my body. Imagine, 180-degree turn. Why? Because Chassidus teaches us that we can analyze the body, study the body, and the relationship between the neshama and the body, and from that, we'll have a better understanding of the relationship between Hashem and the world. So the body became to me, I think he used the term like a magnifying glass, that by looking at the body, I had a better understanding of Hashem. So that's what he's saying here. Let's look at the neshama and the guf, and we'll see the same thing. And for this, we'll understand how it's with Hashem. The neshama is higher than the body, but the source of the neshama is, the source of the body is actually higher than the neshama. So once you learn Chassidus and you realize that the body has a higher source than the neshama, not only is not repulsed by the body, because, from the body I can learn more about Hashem, he actually discovers that the body is even higher than the neshama. If you learn this, you have much more respect for your body. Yeah.
I don't understand how that could have been like the teachings, because the body is the only way that the only conduit can be this through the soul. So why did they ever teach to meet the body?
Because the bottom line is the body is attracted to all sorts of bodily desires. And those bodily desires, that interferes with my ruchnistic desire. The body wants to sleep rather than sit and learn. The body wants to eat. The body wants good food. The body wants to have pleasure and taste. And all these things that the body wants, those are the things which the Torah tells us not to give into these things. And those are the things that bring us down, that we get involved and we get invested into physical pleasure. Initially, it's pleasure that's permissible, and then that leads us to becoming sort of addicted to give in to our desires, and that can lead to an avera. So the neshama, its desires are only spiritual, but the body desires are the ones that lead us away from Torah. Generally speaking, people who violate Torah are not like they're not the defiance of Hashem. That's not what it's about. We learned this in Tanya. It's mainly pleasure. I just want to enjoy life. And I enjoy life if I'll be free. I don't want restrictions. Who is the I? That's the body. The real I should be the neshama, but that's not the way we feel consciously. Somebody told me that years ago when he was a bachar, he wasn't one of the best students. He came to his mashpia. It was an old mashpia in France from Nissen Nemenov. And he said to him, I want to go to Eretz Yisrael. So he looked at him and says, who is I? And what does want mean? Who is I? What do you mean you want? What kind of wanting? These are people that they train their bodies, they condition themselves that whatever they want, it has to be consistent with Hashem's will. I want. There's no I, it's just Hashem. And there's no want. Whatever Hashem wants, that's what you want. But generally speaking, the body is independent, has its own desires, and its desires take us away from spirituality. It's all desires to enhance our gashmizik pleasure. And that in itself is not the end of the world, but this leads us away from ruchnisdik pleasure. Now there's a bracket here. I'm going to skip the bracket and go back to it, but I just want to get the flow. So he's saying that the guf has a higher source than the neshama. Then the bracket ends like 3 lines before the end of the paragraph. In fact, the reason why the neshama is drawn to give life to the body is because the neshama recognizes the advantage that the body has over the neshama, and therefore the neshama wants to go into the body. He says here in one line what is discussed in other Maamarim, pages and pages and pages. So I'll just go over it briefly. Generally speaking, there's a famous pasuk in Koheles, Shlomo HaMelech, where he says, Ruach ha'adam ha'olehi l'mayla. The spirit of man goes upwards. Ruach ha'behema, and the spirit of an animal goes down. In other words, animals, their life is invested towards animalistic things, earthly things, and eventually the neshama goes down, means the body goes into the ground, and that's the end. The neshama goes upward. The neshama is drawn towards heaven. What Chassidus explained it more specifically is that it means in the person itself, not a person, an animal. The godly soul and the animal soul. The godly soul is drawn upwards. The animal soul is drawn downwards. So the godly soul would be compared to a flame, which it actually is. It's always going upwards. You need a wick to hold it down. The animal soul is drawn downwards towards eating and sleeping and physicality, and that's what gives it pleasure. So the question asked in Chassidus, so how does it happen that the neshama goes into the body? Going downward is the opposite direction of the neshama. Neshama goes that way. How could you force, how does a neshama go into the body? And it says in the Pirkei Avos that a person is born against his will. But what does it say right after that? And a person dies against his will. So what is the will of the neshama, to be here or to be there? So the explanation of Chassidus is that both wills can exist at the same time. One is the inner will and one is a more external will. So generally speaking, the neshama wants spirituality. And the place for spirituality is in Shamayim, in Gan Eden, the spiritual realm. And therefore the neshama doesn't want to come down here. When it says the neshama is forced, it doesn't mean chas v'shalom that it's being forced with chains. It means something else. The neshama recognizes the greatness of the body, that it has a higher source than the neshama, and that works like a magnet. That draws the neshama into the body because it knows it'll gain something by entering the body, something which no matter how long it stays in Gan Eden, it'll never achieve that. So therefore the neshama wants both. In essence, it wants to be in the spiritual realm, but it goes down to the body because by doing that, it's going to connect to the source of the body, which is higher than itself. So therefore, both things are true. The neshama is higher than the body on a conscious level, but on a deeper level, because of the source, the guf is higher. I just have to add something, and that is, when you study Chassidus, it's important to remember that when we say the source or the origin of something, it's different than when you say the same thing Begashmis. Begashmis, when you say, oh, this person, they're a descendant of the Rambam. Oh, wow, I better have a whole different level of respect for them. Man, this guy is a schneckle, he's nobody. But his great-great-grandfather was the Rambam. The Rambam lived in a different time. The Rambam lived in a different place. And the Rambam was actually a different person. Has nothing to do with him. He's a descendant of the Rambam. He's a descendant of Rashi. He's a descendant because he's a Kayan of Aaron HaKayan. But Aaron HaKayan lived over 3,000 years ago. When you talk about spiritual things and you say this is, the root of this comes from a higher spiritual place, it's not separated in time and it's not separated in space. So where are those roots? You can't say it was in a different time. There's no time there. You can't say it's in a different place. There's no space there. So what does it mean? It comes from this root. It means that this is the deeper, truer dimension of what you're looking at. So when we say the neshama comes from a higher spiritual place, it's not that it used to be. It means right now, this is the deepest depth of the body. Its true original source is Ratzon of Hashem, the level which is higher than the neshama. And therefore the neshama goes into the body to absorb that, to gain that, and to experience that. Let's add the parentheses. We find something similar with the neshama and guf of Torah. HaTorah mefareshes and mevaras ha-mitzvahs. Teisha mitzvahs hem l'mayla ma-HaTorah. Which is higher? Torah is higher than mitzvahs. Whose source is higher? Mitzvahs is the highest source than Torah. Where do we see that? Just like the neshama is excited in a way to go into the body because of the source, same with Torah. What does Torah occupy itself with? The whole Torah occupies itself with explaining mitzvahs. How do you do a mitzvah? When do you do the mitzvah? What time? Under which conditions? That's what the whole Torah is about. All the Gemara, all the discussions, all the dialogues are about how to perform mitzvahs. When is it kosher? When is it not? So basically, the Torah is engaging itself with the mitzvahs because Torah recognizes that the source of mitzvahs are higher than Torah. Got it? Somewhat. Well, really, this is similar to what we always learn about the worlds. Which is the highest world of all the four worlds? Atzilus. Which is the highest world of all the four worlds?
All the what?
which is the highest world and higher than all the worlds, the most important world of all the worlds. So which is higher? Yeah, we got to root for our Gashmistic world. So what does it say in Chassidus? In terms of which is more spiritual, sure, the other worlds, and especially Atzilus, are much higher than this physical world. In terms of the Ruchnistic source, the roots and the source, this physical world comes from the essence of Hashem, which is much higher than Atzilus and all those spiritual levels. So it's the same thing. Our world is the recipient. The highest spiritual worlds are spirituality. It's like the neshama to our world. But this guf, this physical world, which is like the guf, has a higher source than the neshama. So this is a very basic, fundamental principle that reflects itself in so many different things. Neshama and guf, Torah and mitzvahs, the higher worlds, the lower worlds, Gan Eden, Olam Haba, and then we'll learn about how it applies to Mashpia and Mekabel, to husband and wife, everywhere in Zohar and Malchus and Spheres, all over it's the same principle that this is higher than this, but the source of this is higher than that. And each one complements the other.
So where is the source of the neshama? So,
Exactly. Just turn on your GPS. We're going to learn about it. Generally speaking, the source of the neshama is from the light of Hashem, and the source of the guf is from the essence of Hashem. Like we say about Torah mitzvahs. Torah is the light of Hashem, Hashem's wisdom. And mitzvahs, which is physical, comes from the essence of Hashem. Yeah, in different words, this would be like Maamar Kol Yisrael, or Sivan Kol Yisrael. Chochmah or Ratzon. And or the limited light or Ein Sof, the infinite light. In fact, the lowest thing comes from the infinite light of Hashem. The higher ones come from the finite light of Hashem.
Like,
The neshamas come from the finite.
pleasure in Torah and pleasure in the world are the same source. Right?
Pleasure in Torah,
And pleasure in the physical world, they're the same source. When I have pleasure in going hiking, that's the same source as pleasure in
no, because pleasure for Gashmi is the tainug and the pleasure and the essence of my nefesh Bahamas. Pleasure for Torah is the essence of my nefesh Elokis.
It's a lot more complicated than it looks.
We need a good therapist. Who am I? It's been that way for a long time. You know, it's like a girl once said when she came to class for the first time, learning about two neshamas. She said, wow, this is amazing. Before I came here, I had no idea there was a soul altogether. Now you're telling me I have two of them, not only one. This is for asking good questions.
Thank you, Rabbi. So interesting. So next time I want chocolate, I need to figure out why I want it and where that one is coming from.
No,
or
no,
whether
no,
it's
no.
a will or whether
Next
it's
time one chocolate, you say, wow, this is amazing. The source and the root of this chocolate is higher than my neshama.
Yep.
No guilt feeling anymore. No guilt feeling.
You solved my life problem. Thank you, Rabbi.
Very welcome. Try to keep the accounting.